How you doing, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Colin. I am your host, Colin Egglesfield, and it is Monday evening. It is that time of the week where we get to have an inspiring conversation with someone who's going to share with us some very insightful and helpful information about how to make our lives better. I'm excited to talk to this person tonight because this individual is someone who I met recently, a couple of months ago. He actually took my Beyond Impact class in my communication master class. And what we do in Beyond Impact is help people identify and focus on what their message is to get it out there into the community, into the world, to try to make our lives better. And what I love about this guy is that he has been a doctor for quite some time, and he's written several books in the area of anger elimination, not anger management, anger elimination. And he's going to be sharing with us some of his insight and strategies to eliminate anger in our lives. And as someone who, I'm an actor, so I can be very dramatic in life and I can get triggered, and much like, everyone else out there in life, sometimes I don't always know how to deal with my anger. And sometimes I can get impatient and I take it out on people, and we tend to take it out on the people that we love the most. And unfortunately, that can end up ruining relationships and really cause detrimental effects in our lives. And so that's why I'm excited about talking to Dr. Mort and share and have him share with us some of the secrets about how to eliminate anger from our lives. But before I bring him to the stage, I just want to say it is Inspire Week. We are going to be all convening here in Scottsdale, Arizona this week for my Inspire Retreat, my Inspire Rejuvenation and Manifestation Retreat. And I'm excited that we've got a great group of people joining us this weekend here in Scottsdale, starting Thursday night. And there are still 3 beds available if you guys want to join us this weekend. We've got Thursday night, we're doing the welcome. Friday morning, we're doing a hike. And then we've got 2 speakers every day from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I'm going to be speaking about the topics of communication, insight, and how to own your moment in front of the stage or in front of audiences and in front of the camera. A lot of the things that I've learned as an actor from my acting classes translates incredibly well for anyone who's wanting to get out in there and in front of an audience to share your message. And much like a lot of people out there who are starting to migrate into the world of digital marketing and putting courses online, writing books. This is something that I've been, moving into and migrating into over the past 4 or 5 years after I wrote my book, Agile Artist. There's a difference between acting and memorizing words on a page and then regurgitating them in front of a camera, which is what we do in acting. And then there's a difference between that and then actually getting up in front of an audience and sharing a message that is your authentic message that is connected to our soul purpose and who we are as human beings wanting to make a difference in the world and creating our legacy. And much like, a lot of people out there, about 5-6 years ago, I felt like as much as I loved acting, and I still do it, got a couple of movies coming out this year, I felt like it was important for me to start stepping more into my authentic purpose, which is to share messages of inspiration and support to people to help us, like I said, live better lives. And as I said earlier, my guest tonight is going to be doing just that. So Dr. Mort Orman is an MD, and he's an MD in internal medicine. I'm just going to read to you who he is so you have a better idea of who he is and what his background is. And then, as always, we've got the chat on the right-hand side here. If you have any questions that you would like to ask us tonight, would love for you to chime in and share any of your insight, or if you have any questions that you'd like to ask Dr. Mort tonight, feel free to do so. He has been for the past 40 years, he's been working in the area of anger elimination, and he's a stress elimination expert. He has written 23 books on how to eliminate anger and stress without using drugs, relaxation exercises, or other traditional management techniques. He is the creator of the 10-session Angry No More Anger Elimination Program, the Anger Internal Causes Framework, and the Ultimate Anger Elimination System. Dr. Orman has led more than 100 anger and stress elimination workshops for doctors, nurses, lawyers, business owners, entrepreneurs, other professionals, the clergy, and even the FBI. He has also been the official sponsor of National Stress Awareness Month in the US every April. So this month is Stress Awareness Month, and that's been since 1992. And his newest book is Dr. Orman's Life-Changing Anger Cure, Eliminate Unwanted Anger Without Anger Management, so you can be happier, healthier, and don't end up alone. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Dr. Mort Orman, MD. Welcome,
Hey.
Dr. Mort.
Thank you, Colin. Pleased to be here. I very much enjoyed your program the last couple of weeks, and it was great to meet you and to get to see what you have to offer, which is a lot. So I'm really thrilled to be able to talk to you and your audience.
Well, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your time, and I can't wait to hear more about this whole area of anger, because, as a human being, we just everything from getting stuck in traffic to as an actor not getting the roles that I've been I auditioned for. Man, it is so hard to sometimes to control our anger, and a lot of the times it just comes out in ways which we a lot of the times regret having it come out in those certain ways and saying certain words and doing certain actions that we wish we could take back. So I'm really interested and curious about how you got into this whole area of anger management, and then get into some strategies and techniques that you can share with us to help us make sure that we're not destroying our relationships.
Yes.
Keeping our blood pressure low enough so that we're not killing ourselves as well.
Yeah, I got into this really for self-preservation. I mean, when I was, I really didn't have a lot of anger growing up as a kid. My parents weren't angry, very little anger in the household. It wasn't until I went to college and then medical school and internship, I started getting mainly angry at myself. But then I started getting angry at just anything that didn't go the way I wanted it to go. When I got into practice, I would get angry at my patients if they didn't follow my advice or they made bad decisions and stuff like that. And I don't know if you ever saw John McEnroe play tennis in his heyday. That I took up tennis in my late 20s, and I was literally not the tennis player he was, but I could smash my racket and yell and scream with the best of them, and I really couldn't control it. It was it really felt bad. It was like it was the only thing that I really wasn't successful at that I wanted to be successful at. I had conquered most of the challenges that I had faced at that point in life, but I just could not deal with my anger and stress, and I had anxiety and relationship conflicts and all that stuff. In my personal life, I just couldn't master those issues, and so it bothered me. I was successful as a physician, but I just didn't feel successful inside because I had all these personal control issues that I couldn't, get the better of. And so, and then the other thing is, then when you start taking care of patients as a doctor, you easily can identify the angry people from the not so angry people. So I got to see what happened over time to all of my patients, but you get to notice very quickly that the angry people tend to have more heart attacks and strokes, divorces, and business partnership breakups, and they come in, they tell you that their kids don't want to talk to them anymore, and all these problems that they have in their life. And I'm sitting there, personally, as a doctor, you can't really let them know that you're not in control of your own life. You got to put on the air of being the knowledgeable physician. Right. But inside, I knew that I was. This is what was going to inline for me if I didn't figure this out. So that kept me going, kept me pressing. Everything I tried didn't work. All the standard stress management, anger management stuff didn't work. And it drove me into personal development programs, because I knew that, I had to find an answer somewhere, and I wasn't getting it in the traditional framework. I had studied some psychology. That one didn't help much.
What were some of the traditional modalities of
stuff like count to 10, take deep breaths, do deep breathing exercises, listen to soft music, punch a punching bag, run, exercise, all that kind of stuff. Some of that helped a little bit, but every day I woke up, I was the same angry guy. It's like nothing had changed. Interesting. My birthday was February 2nd, which is Groundhog's Day. It literally felt like Groundhog's Day every day. And no matter how much of the, punching bags you punch or miles you run, it still feels terrible when you can't control yourself. You can't control your emotions, and you don't understand your emotions, which I thought, that it was common sense. I thought I understood where my anger was coming from. I didn't know I was wrong. I didn't know I really didn't have a good understanding of it. But that's what I eventually figured out by spending a year or two doing actually a couple of years doing personal development work. And I cobbled together stuff from different programs. And eventually I got enough insights that I put together a little system that I wanted to try for myself to deal with my anger. And to my surprise, it worked like a charm. It really shocked the hell out of me. I didn't think it was going to work, but it did. And then after a while, I saw that I was able to figure out how to stop getting angry and let go of my own anger. And once I saw that, I realized as a physician, this is like really important, to share with people, because it's a health risk for most people. And as a doctor, once I cured my own anger, I said, I got to get this out there. I got to teach this. I've got to write about it. I got to do programs. And I got to teach people what I'd learned, because I didn't see many people in the mental health field even that were helping people to really get rid of their anger in a really, permanent way. They could patch it up a little bit and, get relief of symptoms a little bit, but really to really get people to understand anger at its core and how they can get at the causes of it within themselves, which is what I didn't know how to do. That's where the real magic is.
So I would say, as an actor, we delve into the world of self-identity, and when we're analyzing a character, we try to figure out and understand what motivates this character to do what they do. And it's interesting to understand and start to investigate and explore what makes someone a serial killer, what makes someone feel the need that they want to become an actor or an athlete, or what motivates someone to feel the need that they have to seek power or dominate to feel significant. And just from doing some of my own exploratory work in the field of personal development, Maslow's scale of hierarchy of needs, as we have our personal needs met, our survival needs met, we start to transition into the realm of needing to feel purpose and significance. And I think this is where the area of our self-identity comes into play, where if we don't feel that we are being seen, or for not being heard, this is where I think subconsciously it can activate the need for us to use more energy to try to get people's attention and to let them know that we exist, that we are here. And it's almost as if like that need to let people know and let the world know that we exist is inherently deep rooted and deep seated, almost as like a survival mechanism. As a physician, understanding the biochemistry or some of maybe the deep rooted psychological Freudian needs of needing to be seen and heard, is that kind of what you talk about or delve into with your books?
Not really. And I think it can actually, that can have a negative effect when it comes to anger, because if you feel like, you've got this anger building up inside, and you feel like it needs to be expressed. People need to know that you're angry, and particularly if you feel justified in what you're angry about. So you may have that idea, well, I want to be heard. I want my anger to be appreciated and acknowledged, and people to change or, fix whatever the problems are that I'm identifying. That can spur you into more anger, and keep the flames of the anger going. What I try to do is I'll try to teach people how they can reach inside and turn those flames off or turn them down whenever they want to. Okay. And when they have unwanted anger that's not serving them, or it's damaging their relationships or their health or their career or something like that, or their relationship with their kids, do you know where your anger is coming from? Do you know how you're looking at the world very specifically that's causing those chemical reactions in your body to occur? Okay. And then do you know what to do about, once you understand those causes, do you know how you can use that information to make that anger, be able to turn that anger on and off whenever you want to? And that's what I basically teach people. And what I found is that pretty much throughout society, we haven't really educated people well to understand where their emotions actually come from. And we've given them the wrong ideas. We've basically, people believe that it's the things that they're looking at outside of them, that they're observing, that's directly causing them to feel the emotions of anger, the emotion of anger, or irritation or annoyance or anything in the anger family. And they think it's like a 1-2, it's a straightforward common sense. This caused me to feel angry. You made me angry. You did this, and now I feel anger. So it looks like direct 1-2 cause effect. That's what I thought. That's basically, as a trained physician, was my understanding. I didn't realize that there's 4 steps in the process. It looks like a 2-step process. There's actually 4 steps. 2 of them are invisible, happening inside us, and nobody's telling us that's going on. Nobody's saying, "Hey, did you notice the other 2 steps?" And they go, "What 2 steps you talking about?" That's the invisibleness of the anger. The real causes of anger are happening inside us, not in the outside world. Those things are just the triggers. And by the way, that those triggers, you could be standing next to a friend, and the same trigger, you both observe the same triggering event. Okay, one of you gets angry, the other one doesn't. It's not the event; it's what happens inside you in response to the event that ultimately ends up in whether the chemicals and the hormones that produce the feelings of anger get secreted, and the process starts. And that's what most people don't understand. What are those invisible causes? That's what I teach people how to recognize, that they have a big blind spot where they really don't know why they're getting angry. And they think the reason they think they're getting angry is only one small part of the story, and they're missing the bigger parts.
So how much would you say of getting angry is biological and physiological, and how much of it is learned behavior of our upbringing, of feeling the need to be seen and heard? And I tend to feel like whenever I get angry, it's usually because I feel like I haven't been seen or heard or recognized for what I've been doing, or the feeling of like that I haven't lived up to a certain expectation, whether that's my own expectation or someone else's expectation, or in the area of what's fair and not fair. Like, I've got an older sister and a younger brother, and growing up, it's like, well, she got more cereal than I did, and he got more, he gets to play, stay out, longer than I did, where we compare each other to a lot of people. I guess my question: how much of it is biological? How much of it is environmental?
Yeah, well, it's both. It's not an either or. Okay, it's all ultimately biological, but our biology is impacted by our life experiences and everything that happens to us, and everything, it all gets into our nervous system and our brain, and it all becomes part of our biology. So when a triggering event or something you're sensitive to, let's say fairness, okay, your brain is on alert, for unfairness. And so when unfairness comes your way, it triggers that. It's a biologic reaction within you, and it happens like a knee-jerk thing. It's not something you really have much control over. It's an automatic reaction. You see unfairness, you're going to get pissed. Okay, and I may see the same thing, and it doesn't look as unfair to me as it looks to you, and I may not. Okay, that's my biology, because I had a maybe different track in life or different upbringing, family situation. So that wasn't that big an issue for me. But it all ends up being biology, and it all ends up being automatic reactivity in our bodies, which is actually, it's funny because it's kind of different than acting, because acting, you're generating consciously, intentionally, your emotions, your behaviors, your facial expressions, your tone, you're trying to actually recreate that automatic knee-jerk response that happens for human beings, which makes us feel like it's happening when we're watching you. It makes us feel like you're reacting automatically, but inside you're doing a different thing when you're acting than when you're being a human being walking down the street and you see something unfair, and all of a sudden, boom, you're angry. Okay. And that's how it is. So most people don't have any control at all over getting triggered by whatever triggers them. The real issue is once you realize you got triggered and that you're feeling angry, now you can do something. Now you can step in and say, okay, what were the invisible causes that I missed?
Mm-hmm.
And how correct were they? Because
Mm-hmm.
they really basically, we don't see the world how it really is. We always see it through filters.
Yeah.
And everything is filtered. Our whole life, everything is filtered. And again, that becomes part of our biology. So, but we don't realize that we're seeing filtered reality. We think we're seeing real reality and truth.
Yes.
But it's only a lot of times that truth has holes in it and it's missing big chunks of reality or the real truth about what really happened. So we get these distorted views. And when you get a couple, three in particular, when you get three viewpoints and they line up together one right after another, that's when anger occurs. And I didn't know that. Despite all my professional training, all my delving into psychology and stuff like that, it took me a long time to get to the point of figure out whenever I got angry, I was always looking at life in three specific ways. And I didn't realize it was automatic. I didn't realize that I was doing it. And a lot of times those three ways of looking at life, at least one of them was going to be wrong. And I would be getting angry for some misperception or a faulty assumption I made or a judgment that was inappropriate or unjust or inaccurate or something like that. But all of it was invisible to me. I couldn't see the dynamics. So I couldn't step in and do any corrective action till I understood the basic mechanism. And
can you obviously we want people to read your book. So I understand.
Well, I'm happy to share it with them. I'm happy to share it. It's in my book. They can read about it and go into more depth in the book. But it's really not that difficult. Okay. And almost everybody will agree that when they're angry, this is how they're looking at things. So the first filter you got to be looking at is that somebody did something bad and wrong that they shouldn't have done. So unfairness, for example, somebody's being unfair. They shouldn't do that. It's bad and wrong. Okay. We don't get angry when we think somebody's doing something wonderful, terrific, perfect. We don't get angry about that. It's got to be bad or wrong or something like that. So it's a judgment of badness, wrongness, inappropriateness. Second filter is there was some negative impact or hurt or harm to either ourselves or somebody else. Okay. So when you say you get upset sometimes when you don't feel like you're being heard. Mm-hmm. That's a negative impact. You want to be heard. You're not being heard. That's a negative impact. Or somebody criticizes you in public or embarrasses you in public. That's a negative impact. You could get angry at them. Mm-hmm. Will Smith in that incident, was very upset with Chris Rock. Why? Because he did something bad and wrong. He told a joke he shouldn't have told about his wife, and there was hurt and harm to him or to his wife, and to him, and both of them publicly. This is happening on national television, so there's those negative impacts. Okay, and then the third filter is that you have to see the wrongdoer as being almost 100% unilaterally responsible or to blame. So there's this very narrow perception of blame where you're only looking at what that other person did, and you're not considering any other causes at play. Okay, so you've got these three filters, and when they line up one right after another, again, this is all knee-jerk automatic. Your brain sends out the message to send out the anger signals, and your body feels angry.
Physiologically, what is that? Cortisol, adrenaline, what is it?
It's complicated. There's a lot of different mechanisms that get activated, but we have the feeling. We know the feeling. We know, and it's different for different people. Some people feel it intensely. Some people have learned to not feel it at all, not let it rise up to a level of feeling because it could be too threatening if it did for them. So it internally, people have different sensations when they're angry, but you can tell usually by a person's behavior, sometimes by their facial expressions, although not always accurately, but you can tell when somebody's really upset, and they don't like and they're looking at it like, well, somebody did something wrong and I got hurt and harmed and they're to blame. And usually there's this sense of, punishment should come their way. That's like the fourth filter, but it doesn't cause the emotion. It just aggravates it a little bit. So and that's what we often do when we get angry. We either say something to somebody, we'll make a snide remark, we'll make a critical comment, we'll make a face, we'll yell, maybe we'll get physical, hopefully not, but we have that desire, to like want to punish when someone has hurt us or hurt somebody else, and they've done a wrong thing, and that they're totally responsible to blame. So that's how we see the world when we feel angry. Now, the interesting thing is, if you know the formula, okay, every time you get angry, that's exactly how you had to be looking at things. That's the only way anger happens. Now you can go, okay, now I know why I got angry. Let me see, are these things true or not? Did they really do something bad and wrong that they shouldn't have done? Was I really hurt and harmed, negatively impacted? Were they really 100% responsible or to blame? A lot of times you'll find the answers to one or more of those questions are not really. There are other things that were going on that I wasn't paying attention to that were in play. I didn't see them because I had these blinders on. Okay, my filters were filtering out parts of the truth, and so I only got part of the reality. Okay, and then when you realize that, you can fill in the gaps, you can fill in the holes, and see other pieces of the reality. Then you go like, oh, wait a second, there was nothing to be angry about here. I misperceived the situation. Oh, I'm sorry. It's like whenever everybody's had this experience, by the way. You make an arrangement for somebody to meet you, and it's very important they be on time, and you tell them that. Okay, and the day comes, you're there, you're on time, and they don't show up. And 5 minutes go by, and you're starting to get upset. Another 5 minutes go by, and you got all these things going on in your mind about how irresponsible they were and inconsiderate, and you never should have trusted them, and and then a couple minutes later they show up and they're all frazzled. They've got an incredibly understandable explanation that they tell you they were very conscientious. They left a half an hour early. They got caught in a traffic jam. They couldn't escape. And as soon as you realize that they weren't being, it wasn't that they were being inconsiderate or irresponsible, which is what you thought, which was what was generating your anger. As soon as you know the truth, it's like, okay, those things happen. I wish you'd have been on time, but I understand. I'm not angry anymore. Okay, and in that moment, the anger just completely dissolves when you realize that you had a false, theory of what had transpired, and now the person comes and tells you what actually happened. Okay, but it's like that. That's not just an oddball situation, a once in a while situation. Almost all the time we're angry, there's something like that going on at some level, where we're missing some of the pieces of the puzzle. And if we had all the pieces, we wouldn't necessarily have gotten angry.
Yeah, this leads to the topic of emotional intelligence, which I find is where instead of jumping right to the worst case scenario or just reacting, it seems like when we're younger, we go right to those like worst case scenario situations. And like with the first part you said, where we have a bad or wrong judgment about the situation. And I feel like until we really know all the facts, it sounds like what you're saying is we base our ability, or we get mad because of our judgment about whether something is bad or wrong. What I find is that until we have all the information, it's hard to make a judgment on something, but people make their judgment based on not enough information. So I think the key here to understand is until you have all the information and gather it, then you can decide to get angry. But by then, because anger seems to be a self-preservation type of
yeah. Well, it's actually, what you're saying is absolutely correct. However, it's worse than what you're saying. Remember, I said there were two hidden causes. There were two invisible causes. There's four steps in the process. Okay.
Okay.
Two of them are invisible. I only told you about the first one, the first invisible one. Okay. So the first invisible one is we've got these filters, these three filters.
Okay.
And we see the world through these filters. Okay. The second invisible step is that our brains immediately, following the filtering process that the brain is doing, okay, and the brain knows it's doing this, okay, the brain immediately says to us, that's not filtered reality, that's the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Don't look for anything else. You have all the information. Now get angry.
Right.
Your brain is telling you what's coming through the filters is absolute truth. It's not missing anything. Okay. So your brain is not sending you on a mission to go find the missing pieces. It's doing the opposite. It's telling you there are no missing pieces. You've got all the puzzle pieces, and you are justified in being angry. And it actually gets one more step worse than that. Okay. Because those are the two missing puzzle pieces of the causes of why you get angry. But then there's this interesting thing. When we get angry, because we misperceived the situation and our brain told us that we didn't, okay, and doesn't want us to go looking for the real truth, all right?
Mm.
Then the anger that we feel makes us feel justified that our perceptions were valid.
Yes.
It's a double whammy, okay? A triple whammy, actually, all right? That our body and our brain is playing trick on us. And it cements the perception and puts all this reinforcement on it that it's true, when in fact it has holes in it. So you literally have to fight against all three of those dynamics that are going on inside of you. Your brain is screaming at you that this is true. Your emotion that you're feeling is telling you this is true, which is not most of the time. Okay. You literally have to take those on and push through that and go, okay, what is true and what isn't true? And you have to do that work. Okay. And it's not that hard to do. It's actually, after a while, when you get good at it, you actually start to look forward to being wrong, because you know that automatically you were probably wrong and you didn't know. You don't know exactly what it is yet, but you smell a rat right away. If you've done this like 100 times, you went through 100 examples of anger where you applied this process. Every time something's been wrong. So the 101st time that it happens, you're going to go, I bet there's some wrongness in here somewhere. I don't know where it is, but I'm going to go searching for it and let me find it. And then I'll be able to, patch that hole or whatever, to see what I missed, So it changes your whole attitude about challenging your own sense of truthfulness of your perceptions and your feelings. Because we have a big mistake in the society. We think that what we feel is true. It's not. Yeah. It's based on filtered BS a lot of the time, and our brain is telling us it's not, and we're buying it. It's literally no different than what the fake news media does on both sides or all sides all day long. They just give you a narrative that's got holes in it, and they tell you there's no holes in it. This is the truth, and they sell it to you to get you emotionally triggered to react by clicking or buying or whatever. But they know what we're just talking about right now, that's their business to know that process. And they know it very well. And they manipulate us all the time because they give us these untruthful narratives that provoke emotions. And they hide the fact that there's missing, important elements that they don't want us to know about, or they don't want us to consider.
Yeah,
we do it to ourselves. Our own bodies created just as much fake news as the media sources do, but we don't know that. So it's funny when you start to see the whole picture. It's like hilarious how human beings operate on a day-to-day basis, where we're clueless about what's really going on inside of our brains, and how we keep getting tricked all the time, and we keep thinking we're right when we're actually wrong a lot of the time.
So do you try to help your clients or your patients see that it's, I like how you said that you almost seek out and look for places or arenas or environments where you are wrong, because when you recognize that you're wrong, there's an ability to have more accuracy with the way in which you perceive the world or see the world or see someone, so that it reduces your chances of getting angry.
Yeah, it's like a Zen paradox.
Yeah.
It's like the path to being more right, okay, is to accept that your body, your biology is configured to make you wrong, and hide that fact from you. So if you embrace that and are willing to acknowledge your biology is going to make you wrong most of the time because you're a human being, okay, that's the path to getting closer to truth and closer to accuracy. because you'll realize where your blind spots were. You realize where you got tricked into
Mhm.
assuming something was true that wasn't, and that'll make you smarter in the long run. But you have to go through the emotional turmoil of being willing to admit that you're wrong or consider that you're wrong, which is very hard to do for most of us.
Yeah. So I think the lesson here to learn or recognize and be aware of and remember is that when we have a certain feeling come up, the feeling is not the truth. The feeling is just causing us to we should at that moment take pause and recognize, okay, I'm feeling something here.
Yep.
What is it telling me? And I need to try to find out the truth of what is causing this instead of actually believing that the reason why I'm feeling this is because someone thinks I am something that I'm not.
The reason you're feeling a negative emotion is that you've got internal filters that are filtering reality so that you feel that way. Okay. And those filters are frequently erroneous.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's invisible. But that's what happens all the time. Okay?
And on a physiological level, Sybil is asking here, as anger she's talking about physiologically, she's talking about, does it make your blood alkaline? Is that right? And bringing, I guess the question is, how does anger actually damage our physiology and cause, I mean, I think, like you said, you notice people who are angry more often than not tend to have more health issues, right?
Yeah. When the chemicals and the hormones that get secreted that produce the anger feeling, that has all kinds of effects on the physiology of the body. Your heart rate usually goes up. Your blood pressure goes up. This puts pressure on the arteries. So if this happens constantly or frequently, multiple times a day, you're getting irritated. Even if it's little tiny episodes of anger, being irritated. Hold on a second. I need to go get my plug in here for this. What I got to do for this. Hold on.
Okay. So I think it's interesting to recognize. So the three things that Dr. Mort mentioned again is recognizing that we have a judgment about what someone says or does is bad or wrong, that we have we recognize that it has a negative impact or harm on us, and then seeing the other person as the wrongdoer and as 100% to blame. So one of my questions is going to be to Dr. Mort as soon as he gets his plug in, is recognizing that we have responsibility in the matter. And he said something interesting.
Okay. My regular computer died about 10 minutes before the show. So I wasn't even sure this backup computer was going to work. So I forgot to plug it in.
All right. So you're good.
All right.
Now.
So here we go. All right. So the physiology, a lot of hormones get secreted, affect other parts of the other organs in the body. You can make your muscles tight. Your face gets flushed, or sometimes things like that. Your ability to think gets a little discombobulated when you're angry. So you can make bad decisions, bad judgments, do bad things, in the heat of the emotion, end up in some legal trouble, sometimes you can end up dead. If you start a fight with the wrong person, and do a road rage thing and somebody pulls a gun and you're gone, So there's lots of negative things that can happen physiologically, and and we know that angry people have higher risks of heart disease. They have higher risks of high blood pressure, higher risks of strokes because of high blood pressure and the effect on the arteries. And there's lots of other systems in the body that are adversely affected. It has lots and lots of adverse effects, and even the little bouts of anger that we have, where we get irritated, where we get annoyed, because a lot of people will say sometimes to me, "Well, I don't have an anger problem," and by that they mean usually, well, I don't get rip roaring angry, I don't go into a rage, I don't, punch holes in walls and things like that, so I don't have an anger problem, But if you say to them, well, how often do you get irritated? How often do you get annoyed? How often does your spouse irritate you? Your kids irritate you? Standing in line irritate you, or slow drivers irritate you. All those things are little bits of anger, little hits of anger that can really pile up over time. And, a lot of marriages, they don't have knockdown, drag out fights, but several years in, one of the partners says to the other one, I can't take this anymore. I'm out, and it's these little things that have accumulated over several years that they haven't said anything about, haven't expressed, but they weren't happy about.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden it snowballs and to a point where they don't want to be in the relationship anymore. So these can all be very nasty, consequences of anger.
One of the coaching programs I went through talked about that there's a difference between looking at life through the lens of right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a difference between that and then looking at what it is that you are wanting to create or have in your life. So whether that is, if you're in a relationship with someone and you feel like they did something that wronged you, the way that it was presented to me was, Colin, you can keep making this person wrong,
mm-hmm.
which is going to prevent you from having the relationship that you want to have.
Mm-hmm.
So the question was, do you want to be right, or do you want to have the relationship that you want to have?
Yes.
And this was sort of it was confronting to me, because in a way it was like, well, if they're the one that did the wrong thing, when I really thought about it, it was like I had such an attachment to them being wrong.
Yes.
And what it does, and what I've read about, that when we are angry or when we're holding on to something, it gives us certainty of knowing, or just having a sense of knowing where we exist in the situation. I think what's scary for me and for a lot of people is when you let go of a belief or an opinion, it creates this uncertainty that can be scarier than holding on to the anger, because at least we know there's a lot of certainty with anger. And
yes, but it's false certainty.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And what I had to recognize,
it's better, but it's false certainty that you're right. Okay.
mm-hmm.
But it's much better to assume with certainty that you're wrong. because 99 out of 100 times you're going to end up being wrong.
Yes.
In reality.
Yes.
Okay.
I agree.
So you actually can get certainty if you just flip the switch.
Yeah. I think, wasn't it Socrates that said the first thing the first sign of wisdom, or the first thing about wisdom, is knowing that we know nothing?
Yes.
Something along those lines. And what's frustrating for me to see is that when people approach a certain subject with so much certainty, well, no, this is the way it is. This is how it has to be. And we see it in the media.
Yes.
And it's someone's opinion, as if like, well, no, I just know. Well, how do you know? I just know.
Yes.
With so much certainty, this is where I feel like there's no workability. There's no opening for any sort of agreement or creation of an agreed end goal. And this is where I think people get stuck.
Yeah, if they're stuck in any part of either side of any either or framework, okay, right, wrong, good, bad, cause, effect, credit, blame, win, lose, and any of those things, okay, and that's how our brains are programmed to do that. Because way back when, in prehistoric times, when there was danger all around, the
Mm-hmm.
brain needed to be really fast and really good at making quick decisions, and the brain had to assume that it was right for you to act. And you had to either run or stay. And if you made the wrong choice, you got eaten.
Yes.
Okay. So the brain got really good, really quick at these either or situations: friend or foe, danger, no danger, that kind of stuff. So, and we still have that today. Okay. So we get locked in these either or, good, bad, right, wrong stuff. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, the three filters, each of those three filters that I mentioned that cause anger, are either or frames. They're the negative side of either or frames. If somebody did something bad and wrong, they didn't do anything that was right or good.
Mm. Okay.
So it's all one-sided negative. If there was hurt and harm, there was no benefit, there was no gain. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's the negative side of that either or scenario. And if somebody was 100% to blame and everything else was innocent in the matter, then that's another either or thing. So all three of these are either or frames that we get locked into, which is why they all have big gaping blind spots. Because real life doesn't happen in either or
right
frame. It's always on a continuum. It's the yin, then it's the yin yang. It always has both components sort of mixed in and different shades and different flavors. And it might look like it's all one-sided, but the reality is it's more subtle. It's got some of both, and it's not always as one-sided as we might think it is. And then we get real dogmatic when we think it's totally one-sided, and we miss all the other nuances in it. So, and that's why you can almost always find holes in any of these filtered realities that are causing your anger, because they're based on either or thinking that we know is problematic, and we know that gets us into trouble and causes us to miss things and have blind spots. So it's really like shooting ducks on a pond. Whoever, animal rights people, I use that just as a figure of speech, not that we should do that, but it's literally, going in that they're going to be falsehoods in your filters that are causing your anger. And it's the same for other emotions, by the way. Same for anxiety. Okay. Public speaking fear. We have filters through which we're looking at what public speaking is all about. Okay. And that which causes us to be anxious. But those filters are usually really off base, about the truth about what public speaking is all about.
Some of those false, what are typically some of the,
I used to have, in addition to my anger problem, which I had big time, I also had a big time fear of public speaking. My first public speaking experience in the first grade, I got up on stage and I completely blanked out in front of my parents and the whole school and friends and everything. And from that point, for the rest of my academic career, I was deathly afraid to speak in public. And it continued even in medical school. If I raised my hand to answer a question that I knew the answer to, I would be like trembling and shaking and quivering, and it's like it was horrible. And then I realized that I had these faulty ideas about public speaking. I thought you had to be perfect. You had to give a perfect delivery because the goal was to get the audience to 100% approval from the audience. What I thought the purpose of public speaking was to get the audience to approve you, everybody. One person didn't like you, it was like, you failed. Okay. Which is really an unrealistic expectation. Okay. And that whole thing about, having to be perfect. And I realized the truth about public speaking is it's really, you just have something of value that you want to share with the audience. So it's something that might benefit them. And you're there to share that with them. And you're there to give. You're not there to get anything from them. You're not there to get their approval. You're there to give what you have to give. And hopefully you have something of value to give. And if you do, it's really not anxiety producing to get up in front of a bunch of people, give what you have to give, knowing that some of the people are going to fall asleep. Some of them will have been up all night with their kid, and have a sour look on their face, and has nothing to do with you. And hopefully the majority of the people are going to, at the end, clap and say, thank you very much. It was very useful. I'm glad you were here. And the other thing is, I used to think if you made a mistake, the audience would just like completely, lose confidence in you, and they would just reject you. And I realized audiences are very forgiving. When you get up on stage to speak, people realize what that fear is and realize what that challenge is. And if you make a little minor mistake here or there, they're on your side. They've got your back. And I had all these things completely backwards about public speaking. Once I figured this all out, and I corrected these distortions in my brain about what public speaking was all about, then I could go out there and I could speak comfortably, like I'm doing right now, and with no anxiety. This is relaxing for me. Okay. But it was terrifying for many, many, many years, and it was all what was going on in my head and the filters that I had, installed in my brain over time, all my anxiety about speaking, they all, created these synapses in my brain. That's how I looked at public speaking. And until I figured out that was all wrong, I couldn't fix it until then.
Yeah. One of the best pieces of advice I got was from one of my acting teachers that said, when you go into an audition, most actors go into the room with the mindset of, it's all about me. Please pick me. I hope I don't screw up. I hope I do whatever it is that's going to make them like me enough to hire me for this job. And she said, your job is not to go in there and get the job. Your job is to go in there and give the gift of this performance, bring these words to life, and helping the casting director and the producers find the best actor for this job. And if it's you, great. If it's not, then so be it. You've helped them in some way. You've given them maybe some little inkling of the way in which maybe the words could be said a certain way, or some more insight on how this character could be the best it can be when it's up on that screen. So it's truly about, and this is what I think is really important, about showing up with that attitude of gift giving, of service, and really just being unconditionally unconnected to the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And you go out there with your best foot forward, but knowing, like you said, that some people are going to fall asleep. Some people have had a really crappy day, and that really has nothing to do with you. Yeah. When it comes to like certain things in relationships, like let's say if someone cheated on their partner, and let's say someone is harboring this anger, or let's say when kids growing up and they felt like maybe their parents neglected them, and they're harboring this anger, and they want to let it go. They want to have a better relationship, but they're just unable to let go of anger for feeling like what someone did to them hurt them deeply. What do you do in those kinds of situations? What do you say to your
well, let me tell you a story. So many years ago, like 30 plus years ago, when I had a patient came to me for stress counseling. He was like 45 years old. And when he was 5 years old, as a little boy, he developed rheumatic fever infection, bacterial infection of his heart. At that time, we didn't have antibiotics, but the treatment was to put them in a sanatorium for a year. So you took the child out of their family, out of their school, everything, and you housed them in an institution and had them at bed rest for a year to let the heart heal itself. So this kid, his doctors, pediatricians told his parents that's what they needed to do. And they weren't happy about it, but it was life or death, so they had to make the decision, and they really agonized over it. So they put him in for a year. That whole time in there, they rarely came to see him, and he felt totally betrayed by them. He felt like they had, just callously just stopped loving him. And after he got out, he was healed. He carried that anger with him for the rest of his life. He was terribly angry at his mother, terribly angry at his father. By the time I saw him, his father had died.
Mm-hmm.
His mother was still alive. And after a couple sessions working with him, I said to him, did you ever go to your mother and ask her what it was like for her and your father about this incident, having to make this decision, and the year that you spent in the Senate? He said, no, I know why I know what happened. They just abandoned me. They just didn't care about me. They just didn't give a damn about me. And that's the filter that he had, and he carried that through. I said, well, I think you should go to your mother and just ask her what it was like. I had no idea what the truth was, but I saw him back the next time I saw him. He came back and he had done that, and he was like a different guy. He had spoken to his mother. His mother told him that both he and the father were just heartbroken that they had to do this, and they felt so guilty that they couldn't stand to be in his presence because it made him feel so terrible that
Wow.
they had to do this to him. And as soon as he heard that and understood that and realized that he had judged his parents incorrectly, his anger, the 40-year or 35 years of anger that he had been holding on to, it dissolved in an instant.
Wow.
Once he got the truth from his mother, which he had never bothered to seek out. Okay, so you can literally have anger's been going on for decades go away once you go back and you ask yourself, is this true? Is this true? Is this true? And you find out what the truth is, however you were able to do it. Now, it's a different situation with a relationship and someone cheats on you, because that's a fundamental move in a relationship that shatters trust.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that can't be repaired. And it's different. You can go back and you can do forgiveness and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes, the question is, you want to move forward, continue to move forward with that person. That's a whole different issue. Okay. And, and how are they going to behave, and can you ever trust them again? All that kind of stuff. So it's a very bad move in a relationship. It usually kills the relationship. for that reason. But you can still go back and do the truth process on, what did they really do a bad and wrong thing? Were they really 100% responsible? To blame is a very useful question. How did I, the other partner, the one who was victimized, so to speak, did I play a role in why this person ended up behaving this way? And usually the answer to that question in a relationship, it's usually some shared responsibility, even though we don't like to admit it. The person that got cheated on doesn't like to admit that they may have somehow brought this on, either consciously or unconsciously. But the truth of the matter is, anytime in a relationship, any problem doesn't have to be cheating. It could be anything. Usually both parties are playing a role in some capacity. It's never usually totally one-sided. So you can do all that kind of stuff, but it still brings up the issue of, does a relationship have a heart, a beating heart going forward, given that one of the fundamental tenets of having a good relationship, which is trust and making promises and keeping them, has been violated. So that's a whole different,
Do you find that encouraging people to forgive is a remedy for anger?
Well, it's interesting. When you do the process we were just talking about, okay, you don't need to there's no forgiveness effort needed. When you get to the truth, forgiveness just happens automatically. It's not something you have to do. What you have to do is you have to get to the truth.
I like that.
When you get to the truth, forgiveness, and Wayne Dwyer wrote about this in several of his books about what forgiveness actually comes from. And it just comes from realizing we misperceived whatever it is that we can't forgive somebody about, and we malperceived it in some way or another, okay, that we haven't recognized yet. And when you can pierce through that and see what was really true in a deep way, very deeply philosophical way sometimes, then forgiveness just happens automatically from recognizing that you made a mistake at some level.
Yeah, no, that resonates.
Yeah.
That resonates immensely.
Yeah.
And the name of your book is Dr. Orman's Life-Changing Anger Cure. And talk about you eliminate anger. You don't help manage anger. So it's not anger management.
Yeah, the problem with anger management is it's mainly deals with symptoms. It's teaching you how to deal with the symptoms of your anger, how to keep them from building up inside, causing problems, or how to express them in ways that don't create more trouble. More communicate your anger more responsibly. It's all downstream from the anger. You've got the anger building up inside, and now what do you do with it? That's anger management. I'm talking about, how about if you stop being angry? How about if you reach in and turn off the spigot that's causing the anger by doing what we talked about, realizing where the truth is hiding, and where falsehoods have taken precedence, okay, and in an invisible way, and then you can literally turn the anger on and off whenever you want. So, for example, I hardly ever get angry anymore. Okay, and when I do, I can get rid of it real quickly. But if I'm talking to a customer service rep and I'm not getting satisfaction, and I want to pretend to be angry, I can ratchet up anger if I want to. Not that I'm really angry, but I know that works as a technique, to get a result that I might want. Okay, so I can go in and control the nozzle, and everybody has the ability to do that. So it's really a remarkable skill when you and what's amazing is this should be taught to every kid in high school and college before they graduate. You should know where anger comes from as a human being so that you can take control of it whenever you want. It's amazing that we let people graduate high school and college without having this fundamental understanding of emotions, relationships, some of the things we talked about in relationships. All that kind of stuff is just the stuff you need to master life is not being taught. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's good to release anger, though, at certain points instead of suppressing it? Isn't it important to let that energy out?
Yeah, but if that again, that's assuming that you can't do anything about it building up in the first place. If you can stop it from building up or know how to turn it off, you don't have to worry about, well, what do I do with it now? Do I express it or suppress it? How about if it's not there? Then I don't have to do anything. There's nothing to manage. I'm not angry now. I see the situation differently. I'm not angry anymore. All right?
Yeah.
That's the best. That's the ultimate best outcome. Okay, that's why I call my system the ultimate stress elimination system, because the ultimate. There's nothing better than just I get
Yeah.
angry. I get angry. I don't want to be angry. Okay, turn it off.
Yeah.
Here, I know how to do it. Here's how to do it. 1, 2, 3.
And again, your book is Dr. Orman's Life-Changing Anger Cure, that is available on Amazon.com, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
wherever books are sold.
And also, yes, and there's a special deal going on right now because of National Stress Awareness Month being April. So for me, in support of National Stress Awareness Month, I'm making the book available to people for free. So that in a PDF downloadable version, they can go to a URL, which I can tell you right now. It's aprilbookoffer.com until the 30th of April, midnight. And they can download a free PDF copy of the book, or if they want the paperback version, they can go on Amazon and purchase it from Amazon.
Is that it right there? aprilbookoffer.com?
That's it.
All right, ladies and gents. I mean, what better offer than that, than a free copy of Dr. Orman's book?
Happy Stress Awareness Month.
Eliminate anger in your life and to have better relationships and to love mom and dad and your partner and never get angry again.
And become a successful Hollywood actor.
Yes, exactly. Oh, man, those roles I didn't get. Oh, yeah. Well, Dr. Mort, I appreciate your time and your insight. And I mean, honestly, I feel like we could talk for, a lot longer about this topic. And if you're wanting to know more about Dr. Mort and what he has to offer, you do coaching and online consultations as well?
Yes. And people go to my website. It's Doc Orman, DOCORMAN.com. And they can get in touch with me there if they want to.
Okay, docorman.com. And then I'm sure you're on Instagram too, yeah?
I am.
And what's your Instagram handle?
Doc Orman.
Doc Orman.
DOCORMAN.
Okay, excellent. All right. Well, anger is very important, but there's nothing more important than us knowing what your favorite 6 movie-related questions are, Dr. Mort. So my first question to you, sir, is what is your favorite movie of all time?
I've seen a lot of movies. I would say right now, because recent ones have more impact in my memory right now. But a favorite movie I would say is Top Gun Maverick.
Okay, excellent.
I really enjoyed that movie.
Yeah, and Ed Harris's character, the guy who plays the colonel or the general, he had a lot of anger.
He did. He thought Tom Cruise was doing a lot of wrong things.
Exactly. And really what he was just trying to do is just save the world. I mean, come on. Yeah. What was your favorite movie growing up as a kid?
Well, as a young boy, I saw Tammy and the Bachelor with Debbie Reynolds. I think I was like 10 years old at the time. That was the first time I had the feelings of love, that kind of like in the childhood boyish infatuation, kind of a heartthrob thing for Debbie Reynolds, and the movie just really destroyed, really ruined my day. It made me feel great, but then it also made me feel sad when I had to leave.
Really? Tammy and the Bachelor.
And the Bachelor, and it's funny. I rented a DVD of it a few years ago. I went back and watched it, and I said, how did I ever like this movie? It's not really all that good. But as a young kid, I was really impressed somehow with Debbie Reynolds, and I really fell in love with her instantly.
Awesome. Yeah. Definitely check that out. What is your favorite romantic comedy?
I really liked 500 Days of Summer.
Tell us why.
I thought that was it was all about, it was about relationships and about kind of counterintuitive. And it starts off saying, this is not a love story. and the guy falls in love with the girl, and then the girl dumps him at the end. And I thought it was very telling of some of the hidden dynamics that go on between, boys and girls in relationships that we all experience, but they really documented it dramatized it very well.
Yeah. And I can't remember, does he end up with her at the end, or
no? But he ends up with somebody named Autumn, I think.
Okay. So he spent all this time and energy, like hoping and dreaming and wanting to be with this person, and we can
who didn't really want to be with him.
right.
But at the moment, she had nothing better to do, so she was with him. But then she moved on, and then he stumbled and meets this girl whose name is Autumn, and it sounds like they're going to hit it off very well and be compatible with each other.
Yeah, that is a good movie. And what is your favorite comedy?
Favorite comedy? I don't really know that I have a favorite comedy.
You're so focused on Anger Elimination that you just don't like to watch comedy.
Yeah, no. Yeah, nothing comes to mind. If something does, I'll tell you. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
How about who's your favorite actor or male character in a movie?
I like Tom Cruise in Top Gun Maverick. What I really liked about him in that movie is it was apparent to me that his fingerprints were all. He didn't just act that movie. He created that whole entire movie. He had his fingerprints over every aspect of that movie. It was his vision for how he wanted that Top Gun sequel to go, and he made it happen. I thought he did a bang up job, And I think it was all his not only his acting, but his vision that got implemented, and his influence on the whole production.
Yeah, he's definitely a visionary, and one of the publicists that has represented quite a few actors in Hollywood. His name is Michael Levine. He's written 19 books on publicity, and he represented Michael Jackson, David Bowie, Sharon Stone, a bunch of really successful people. And he mentioned that the difference between the super successful people who we see as movie stars and the big stars, singers and whatever, is that a lot of the time the talent is the same. It's that the difference between these super successful people is that they have such specificity about what their vision is for where they want to be and what they see, and they're not willing to sacrifice or water down their idea of what it is that they want, so much so that first he said they will tell you what they want, and they will say if you are in their way, they will tell you to move. First they will ask you to move, and they will tell you to move, and they will knock your ass down. And I think it's important to obviously have that idea of what it is that you see for yourself, and that you don't sacrifice or compromise your belief in what it is. And I think it's important to stand up for what you believe in, so much so that when I remember this during COVID, and I'm not sure if it was Maverick, it maybe was, that there was this instance where Tom Cruise, there was a leaked audio of him yelling on set about people wearing their masks because it was during COVID, and he was pretty adamant about making people. He wanted them to make sure that they knew that there was a lot of effort and a lot of planning that went into being able to film, and then he felt like people weren't taking that into consideration and were taking the mask mandate, not as seriously. And he was really, I mean, this is the first time I heard Tom Cruise get this angry. And I think what you were saying was pretty spot on, where there's a difference between getting angry out of reaction and getting angry to make a point.
Yes.
And I think
that would be the difference between unwanted anger and wanted anger, or useful anger.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And I think he did a really good job of just making people aware that this is serious business, and that there's a lot of people's lives that are on the line here, and that this is important, and we can't joke around about this stuff. And so that just kind of came to mind in terms of like Anger and Tom Cruise. But I think there definitely is a clear delineation between reactionary anger and useful anger.
Yep.
Okay, last question, Dr. Mort. Who is your favorite actress or female character in a movie?
Oh no, I'm blanking on her name now. Goldie Hawn's daughter,
Kate Hudson.
Kate Hudson, the How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I thought that was a brilliant movie. I thought she did a great job.
Yes.
And Matthew McConaughey. I mean, I could have chosen Matthew McConaughey as my favorite male actor too.
Well, did you ever see my movie with Kate Hudson, Dr. Mort?
I have not. I'm gonna have to go see that.
Not have. Okay.
Well, wait, tell me.
You. Now I'm getting angry. I'm feeling that you have wronged me. I'm judging you for being horrible at not watching my movie. Yes. The negative impact is that I don't feel respected by you.
Yes.
And now I am 100% blaming you for making me mad.
I appreciate that would make you feel angry if you saw things that way.
Oh, one last thing. You did say, you've said people have said that person made me mad.
Yes.
Do you ever say that no one can make you mad, that only you can make you mad?
I don't say it that way. I show people how it's true. I don't ask him to believe me. Okay. I say, tell me a time when you were angry. And then I show them how they made themselves angry.
Got it.
By looking through the 3 filters and believing they were true when they weren't. Okay. I don't have to summarize it by saying, oh, and by the way, you made yourself angry, because I just showed them that they did.
Because when I hear people say that, like, oh, he made me, I mean, I say it too, like, oh man, he, pissed me off, or she pissed me off, or whatever it is. I think it's important to recognize that only we can make ourselves pissed off based on the film.
That's a true it's a true statement, but the problem is it doesn't have enough context for people to understand why it's true. They don't have the context that we just talked about in this conversation to understand why they're making themselves angry. But so if you just say it without providing all of that background and understanding, people can't do anything with it. They can't even agree with it, because they don't. The missing pieces are invisible. They don't know what they are. They have no context for coming to that same conclusion, which you could easily come to when you had all the information we talked about today.
And it looks like when I mentioned something borrowed, someone wrote in the comments here, cheater movie. Sounds like someone's angry about cheating. Maybe they should give you a call, Dr. Mort.
I'd be happy to help them if they want to.
All right. Well, I appreciate you being authentic about your journey and where you're at, Dr. Mort, and sharing with us the insight about how to eliminate anger. And as my last question to my guests, I like to ask, what inspires you?
What inspires me is I'm still, even though I'm retired from the active practice of medicine, I'm still very much a doctor at heart. And I still want people to have happy, healthy lives. I don't like to see people suffer consequences of anger when they don't have to. And I feel like I've got a cure for what ails us today when it comes to our modern anger epidemic or pandemic, that anybody around the world could latch onto and save themselves all that heartache and pain and consequences of something they don't have to keep experiencing. We all have the ability to eliminate our anger if we just understood what the heck was really going on. And it's funny, the Greek, the etiology of the word, I don't know if the etiology is the right thing, but the derivation of the word doctor comes from the Greek word for teacher. So I still feel like, that I'm living my essence as a physician, as a healer, by teaching people how to be healthy and well. Now that I'm, I spent many years patching people up when they got sick and trying to keep them healthy. But now here's something that really can help people avoid illnesses, reduce their chances of getting sick. And to me, that's exciting to get up every day with that possibility and to know that I'm helping people do that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
so thanks for giving me the opportunity to do that here.
You're welcome. And keep up the great work. And again, anyone out there who's interested in reaching out to Dr. Mort, you can also get his book at aprilbookoffer.com. It's his free PDF about his book called Dr. Orman's Life-Changing Anger Cure. And once again, Dr. Mort, thanks so much for your time and your insight. Appreciate it.
Yes, it was fun. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here again for another insightful and inspiring conversation. I really liked a lot of the things he talked about, and I think I'm going to have to go back and re-listen to some of the things he said, because some of the things go a lot deeper than I think we're able to initially understand just at first blanch. But I really liked how what he's doing is really creating a framework for us to be able to understand where anger comes from, and how once we understand a framework for where something comes from, it gives us the leverage to be able to do something about it, where sometimes we can feel powerless in the whole situation of being a human being and feelings. And because we are human creatures, it is very difficult sometimes not to get stuck or overwhelmed with the feelings that we have, especially if some of us are empaths out there. We tend to feel things a lot more deeper than others. And with a system where we can actually look at something outside of our feelings and look at it from a framework, we can start to understand and apply it to the way in which we look at the world. Because the way in which our emotions or our feelings are created are based on what we believe and the framework of how the world shows up for us. As Dr. Mort talked about, he described them as filters. And he said a lot of these things, including the two that he talked about, are invisible. So I think it'd be really great if you are interested in dealing with any sort of anger issues, to reach out to him and see if he may be able to support you in whatever it is that you're dealing with. And what I really liked about what he talked about in terms of where forgiveness is an effort as soon as you understand the truth about what something is. And I think it was really profound what he talked about in terms of when he was referencing his patient, and when he encouraged his patient to ask his mom what it was like for her. And once he started to understand her perspective and what she was going through, the whole dynamic of how he thought she viewed him changed. And like he said, once we know the truth of something, forgiveness it's not an effort. It's just a natural flowing of, I understand it, I get it. And I think it's so important, like he said, to not get stuck in the belief that you are right about something, and knowing that 99% of the time we are wrong. And I think it's a really good piece of advice to seek out more times, try to seek out where you are wrong, because the more times we find out we are wrong, we have the opportunity to be right. So like he said, it's almost like a Zen type of way of looking at it, but super interesting. And hope you guys enjoyed the conversation tonight. And for those of you who are looking for more inspiring conversations and insight, again, this weekend we are doing the Inspire Manifest and Rejuvenation Retreat here in Scottsdale. We still have a few spots left. We have some incredible speakers, similar to Dr. Moore, talking about different topics about how to press pause and create more wellness and balance in your life. There's going to be some entrepreneurial talk. We're going to be talking about how to create more balance in your life in terms of mind, body, and spirit. We're going to be doing yoga. We're going to be going on an amazing hike. We're going to be doing some sound bowl healing. We're going to be doing some scene work where in front of the fire, we're going to be acting out scenes from some of your favorite movies and TV shows. And what's great about this is you get to understand and learn what it means to really connect to the emotions and the objective of the character in a script. And in doing so, it helps you get in touch with your feelings and what you really truly care about something, and helps you identify what is your objective in life. Because when we show up in life with more purpose and more of an understanding of what it is that we really want, it allows us to be able to say no to the things that don't serve us and don't support us along our journey. And it allows us to be able to show up honoring ourselves and be more in alignment with what we truly want to create, and more alignment with our soul purpose, which ultimately is what this is all about. So if you guys are interested, you can shoot me an email at info@colinegglesfield.com, or click on the link in my Instagram bio. And we've got an amazing website. And we've got an incredible supportive staff who are going to be putting on this incredible weekend. And can't wait to see everyone who's planning on coming there. And so if you're wanting, again, more information about that, you can go to my Instagram bio or shoot me an email, info@colinegglesfield.com. That being said, ladies and gents, thanks so much for being here tonight, and I will see you guys all next week. Take care for now.